Okay, let's continue on with section 10.1. And so I'm just starting at the next number after I finish the last one. And so what we're doing is we're solving these to get the solution to this equation. And remember, we first have to factor everything, then after that find the excluded values. And so we need to factor this, and it's going to be x plus 1, x plus 5, that's 1x plus 5x is 6x, so that's good. And so basically we're going to set both of those factors equal to 0, and we get x equals a negative 1 and x equals a negative 5, and those are the values x cannot be, because if we did have that as the value, then it's going to give us a 0 in the denominator. So we would just exclude it from our solution if we come up with those as one of the answers. And so what is the LCD? Well, the LCD is just this x plus 1 times x plus 5. So I'm going to multiply every term times that. So I'm going to take that whole thing times each one of these terms. When I take it times the first one, I'll have 2x times, our x plus 1 cancels, we have x plus 5. Then minus 3 times, now the x plus 5 cancels, and we have x plus 1 left. And here when we multiply it, we just end up with the numerator is minus 8x squared, because both of the denominator and up here cancel. Now I'm going to distribute, so I have a 2x times that, and it's going to be 2x squared plus 10x. And then I have a minus 3x, and then I'll have minus 3. And if I go ahead and add 8x squared to this side, then I get 0 for over here. So I'm just basically going ahead and adding this here and here, so I can bring it over here from the start. So now I have 8x squared plus 2x squared. Well, that's 10x squared. I have 10x minus 3x. Well, that's 7x. And then I have minus 3 equals 0. Now I have to factor this. And maybe, how about a 10x and an x, and maybe a 3 and a 1. And I need the larger one to be positive, so that'll be a plus, that'll be minus, so that's 10x squared. Then I have 10x minus 3x is 7x, and then minus 3. That's equal to 0. So now I set each of these factors equal to 0. And I get x equals 3/10 and x equals a negative 1. But we said that this cannot equal a negative 1, so this solution is out, and we just get x equals 3/10 as our only solution. And again, we could use our calculators, plug it into both sides, and make sure that that was truly a solution. What about this one? Well, this one's pretty nice. We have only one denominator, basically. So x minus 1 equals 0, so x equals 1. So all we have is x cannot equal that 1. So let's multiply both sides by x minus 1. So when you take that and multiply it by the first term, they cancel, and we just get x squared plus 6. When we multiply it by the second one, we just get plus x minus 2. And when we multiply it by this term over here, we get 2x times that is going to be 2x squared and then minus 2x. All right. Now, since we're going to have the x squared terms and everything, what we need to do is go ahead and get all of those onto one side. I see I have a positive number here that's 2, and here is a 1. So I'm going to take everything to the right, just because that's going to make it a lot easier. So I'm going to subtract x squared, subtract x squared. Well, here I have 6 minus 2, which is 4. So I'm going to subtract 4, and then here I'm going to subtract x, and subtract x. All right. So when I do that, everything over here cancels, and I get 0. 2x squared minus 1x squared is x squared. Minus 2 minus 1 is going to be minus 3x, and then I have minus 4. And so when I factor this, I'll have x minus 4, x plus 1. So it's a minus 4x plus x is minus 3x. So then x minus 4 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. Well, that says x is equal to 4, or x equals a minus 1. Well, we said x couldn't equal a positive 1. It didn't say anything about the negative 1. And so in this case, both of these will be our solution. We'll have x is equal to 4 and x equals a negative 1. Both work. Okay. What about here? Well, what I notice is I have terms here I can pull out, and that gives me x minus 3. Here, if I pull out a 5, I have x minus 3. Well, kind of written right. All right, so now I've got all of these, and the only thing that's going to actually make a denominator go to 0 is if I set x minus 3 equal to 0, or x is equal to 3. So x cannot equal 3. That's my excluded value. So now, when I look at this, now I'm going to multiply this whole thing up here, and I've got a factor of 2 and a factor of 2, factor of x minus 3, and a factor of 5. So I'm going to multiply by basically 2 times 5, which is 10, and then times the x minus 3. Okay, so now I multiply each term by that. So when I take the 2 and x minus 3 times this, that's going to give me a 4x times what's left over is 5. And then here, when I take that times it, the 5x minus 3 cancels and I have just 2, so I have a 4 times 2. And here when I cancel, I'll have 1 times, and then I'll have 5 times x minus 3. Now I simplify. Here I have 20x minus 8 equals 5x minus 15. And I'm going to take x's to one side and the numbers to the other. So let's add 8 and subtract 5x. And so I have 15x is equal to, and now it looks like a negative 7. So divide by 15. And so x is equal to a negative 7 over 15. Now all I said was we couldn't equal to a 3, but nothing about a negative 7 over 15. So that one is the correct solution. All right, so our next one. All right, here we have an x minus 2, a 2x plus 1, and let's see what this factors out to be. Probably a 2x plus 1 and an x minus 2. Let's check. That's a minus 4 plus 1 is minus 3, then minus 2. So that looks to be the denominator factored. And so 2x plus 1 and x minus 2 are my two values that we're not going to be able to have. And so we have x minus 2 equals 0. So x equals 2. So we can't have that. And x equals a minus 1/2. And we can't have that. So those are the two excluded values that we will have if, when we get to the end, if they come up as a part of the solution, we have to x out. So I'm going to multiply by 2x plus 1, x minus 2. And when I multiply that first term, the x minus 2's cancel. So I'll have x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. Plus, and now here 2x plus 1 cancels, so I'll have x plus 4 times x minus 2. And when I multiply here, those cancel and we just get equals 1. Okay. Now we distribute and use FOIL, so we'll get 2x squared, then we'll have plus x minus 2x minus 1, and then we'll have plus x squared minus 2x plus 4x minus 8 equals 1. Well, let's subtract 1. So we have 2x squared plus x squared, so that's 3x squared. And we have 1 minus 2 is going to be minus 1, and then minus 2 more is minus 3, plus 4 is positive 1, so that's plus x. So 4 minus 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Okay, just checking. And we have a minus 1 is minus 2, minus 8 is minus 10. And that's equal to 0. And so 3x, x, and that's plus 1. So if we have 5 and a 2, we need the larger one to be positive, so that'd be a plus, that would be a minus, so it's going to be 3x squared. And we'll have 6x minus 5x is plus x, and then minus 10. So that's equal to 0. So here x is equal to, we take that over, it's going to be 5 over 3. Here that's going to be x is equal to a minus 2. And we said x cannot equal a positive 2 or a negative 1/2. So both of those answers should work. All right, so again, plugging them both back into our original equation, we should get those both to have equal on the left and the right. All right, what about this one? Well, I see a trinomial and then just the binomial. So that means I'm probably going to have to factor this one. And I'm going to guess that that's going to be x plus 6 and x minus 3. So that's 6x minus 3x is 3x and then minus 18. All right, so x plus 6 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. So x equals a negative 6 and x equals a positive 3. So those are the two values that are excluded. Okay. Well, now that just means we're going to multiply here by x plus 6, x minus 3. And when we multiply that first term, the x plus 6 cancels, so we'll have x minus 3 times x minus 3. And then we multiply the second term, the x minus 3 cancels, and that's going to be times x plus 6. And when we multiply this one, everything cancels, and we just have x squared. All right, what I'm going to do is FOIL the left first before I take that x squared over. So here I get x squared minus 6x, then plus 9. Here I have plus x squared, and I have 6x. 6x minus 2 is going to be 4x. And then minus 12 equals x squared. So if I subtract x squared, that's 0. So those will cancel, and I have x squared. Minus 6 plus 4 is minus 2x. And 9, 10, 11, 12 is going to be so I'm going to get x minus 3, x plus 1 equals 0. So that's going to be minus 3 plus 1 is minus 2. So x equals 3 or x equals negative 1. Okay. Well, x cannot equal 3, it said. And so this term goes bye-bye. And we just have one solution. Okay. So again, sometimes you lose one because of your excluded values. You know, a lot of times we haven't. We've kept both of our solutions. So you really have to pay attention to what your excluded values are and make sure to cancel those out and not actually use those as a solution. All right, this one looks like almost the last one. Has a so except for the numerators. So here that's going to be x plus 6 and x minus 3 again. And so x cannot equal negative 6 and x cannot equal a positive 3. So those are my two excluded values from this or those. And so I'm going to multiply by x plus 6 times x minus 3 again. And when I take that on the first one, the x plus 3's cancel. The x plus 6 cancels, and I'm left with x minus 3. And then minus, and then I have 2x minus 3. Now the x minus 3's cancel, and I have x plus 6. And then everything cancels, and I just have minus 3x squared. So let's go ahead and add these and FOIL them. So 3x squared. Then we have minus 9x minus 1x, that's a minus 10x. Then it's plus 3. And then I'm just going to say minus, and I'm going to do that before I, the FOIL before I put the negative in here. And so that's going to give me 2x squared, and that's going to be 12x minus 3, so it's going to be plus 9x minus 18, and that equals negative 3x squared. Okay, so now I have 3x squared minus 10x plus 3, and then I have minus 2x squared minus 9x plus 18, and then I'll have plus 3x squared equals 0. Okay, so I've got 3 plus 3 is 6, minus 2 is going to give me 4x squared. Now I have a minus 10 and a minus 9, so that's going to be a minus 19x. I've got a 3 and an 18, so that's going to be a plus 21, and that's equal to 0. So let's see, it's probably going to be a 3 and a 7, and 4 times 3 is 12. Yeah, so that's going to be a 4x here, x here, and they're minus and minus, so it's at minus 12, minus 9. It's going to be minus 19 plus 21. And so then x is equal to 3, or x is equal to, take that over, get 7 over 4. Now again, x cannot equal 3, and so our only solution here is 7 over 4. All right, so that's all I have for section 2.1, part 2.